So what is bank switching and why would you want to do it? Well, most of you probably know about it from the free cash that is being kind of thrown around month after month, year after year by the big banks. Anything from 100 quid up to potentially 200 quid, potentially even more than that, depending on how that offer stacks up. That is obviously a really good reason to switch. Free money. And I'll take you through what you need to do in order to get that. But that's not the only reason you might want to change your bank. You can change your bank for all sorts of reasons. You hate your existing bank. It doesn't deliver anything for you. You're getting nothing in return, or you've had a bad experience. You want to move to somebody else. Or perhaps there's other kind of things that are going on, other kind of monthly rewards or incentives or high interest rate accounts. Again, might mean you want to change your bank again in order to take advantage of those. And you absolutely can switch for those reasons as well. But importantly, you don't have to. On one hand, there's those cash incentives, which require something known as a switch, an actual switch, which we'll go through in more detail in a second. And the other ones just require you to have an account with that bank. So if you are thinking, oh, I like the idea of that regular saver that's paying X amount, or I like the idea of cinema tickets every single month, or I like the idea of this app which might help me budget, absolutely, if you want to move from your old bank to your new bank and move everything across, you can switch to do that. But if you just want to take advantage of those features, there's nothing stopping you open them up as an additional account. So that's important to think about why you want to switch, why you want to do it. Actually, do you need to do it in the first place? Now, if you want to do it, you do want to switch, then what I'm going to take you through in a moment will obviously explain to you exactly how to go about doing that. Now, first of all, there are two types of bank switch, this process called bank switching. One of them is called a partial switch. And as the name suggests, you're not moving everything across. And this is where you would say, I would like to move over these direct debits, these standing orders, and maybe a few other bits and pieces here or there. And they will move from one account to the other. The other one is known as a full switch. And as the name suggests, you are moving everything over. Absolutely everything on your old account will transfer over to the new account. So yes, all those regular payments will be coming across, the standing orders and the direct debits, but also your salary or that 15 quid your mate owes you for that night out. All these kind of things, they will all be transferred over for months and months and years and years and years going forward. All gets moved over. The difference between the two, though, the big difference between the two is a partial switch has no protection, whereas the full switch is covered under something called the current account switch guarantee. And this means if anything goes wrong in that transfer across, either in that initial period, just those regular payments or the money that the balance in your bank is moved over, or in a month's time, in a year's time, if anything goes wrong, they will compensate you, they will cover you if that was to happen. So that's a big difference there. The second big difference, and this is something which some people might be more concerned about between the two, is that in a partial switch, you've still got your old account. With a full switch, the old account has to close. It's part of the deal, right? You're moving everything over. You're covered by this guarantee. You're getting to take advantage of maybe these big cash bonuses, but the old account will be closed completely. It will not exist anymore. Now, that shouldn't be too much of an issue for most people, but it's certainly something to think about if you want to keep hold of any particular things that are linked to the old account. Now, that's from the mundane, such as bank statements. You will lose access to all those bank statements, which not going to be an issue for most people, but if anyone's had to apply for a mortgage at any point, they'll know you'll need X number of years worth of statements. So you'd want to maybe download all of those before you did. If they don't come in the post, the digital, download them all before you switch away. But through to some people, they like to have that familiarity. They like to know what their sort code is and their card number is. They've had it for a long time. They don't like the aspect of change. Well, you have to deal with that because they're all going to go. You have to learn the new card number, learn the new sort code and account number, all those kind of things. But also, and this is probably more important, it could have more of a knock-on. The other things are inconveniences, right? This one could have more of a knock-on, so you really need to consider it before you go through with a full switch. Is sometimes, and this is a very, very low number of occasions, the majority of the time it's not going to be a problem, but sometimes there will be additional products you've got with that old bank, such as a regular saver or maybe a credit card or a mortgage, where the reason you've got them, the reason you're allowed to get them either at a higher rate of interest or without a fee on the credit card or potentially just exclusive access to this mortgage rate, whatever it might be, is because you hold a current account with that old bank. If you are switching that old account across, closing that old account, then it's very likely that there'll be a knock-on effect with those other products. So you have to think about that. If that is something that you are concerned about, then you might not want to switch at all. Or potentially, and I'll talk about this other times, is you might want to set up something called a dummy current account, which you use purely for the purposes of switching, okay? But we're focused here just on the basic principles. I won't get into dummy accounts or anything like that right now. So you've got the old account. You want to go for a full switch. You go for the process. It is closed. Really important you remember that. But everything is moved across. And with partial switches, you've got the old account. You choose what goes across, but they both stay open, yet you don't have that guarantee in the moment and also going forward that things are going to be protected. There is one thing that doesn't switch though with either of those type of switch, the partial or the full switch. And this is what's called a continuous payment authority, right? This is basically when you pay for something on a regular basis with the long card number. So this could be, I don't know, your subscription to Netflix or something like that. All those things, they will stop. That does not get moved over as part of the switch. So that is something really important before you go through the whole process. You do have a look at your bank statement and just see which things are coming through and correlate that. Just check it against that list you've got of direct debits and standing orders just to see if anything's missing there, because you're going to have to start that up again. Now, that could be a minor inconvenience, or it could potentially be quite problematic if you don't pay for something where you have to pay for it. That if you stop paying for it, there are problems such as being unable to access an important service or potentially charges and fees coming on top. So that's what bank switching is and why you should do it. How do you do it? That's the next step, right? Well, this has a few different stages. Generally, in my experience, it doesn't take very long at all. Sometimes you can do this whole thing, the whole admin behind getting it started, within 10 minutes. And then maybe you might need to wait a week and a half for it to complete. Other times, it can be a bit slower. And I'll take you through what you need to do and help you sort of figure out that. Sadly, it is going to be different by bank, by offer by offer. So sometimes you might have to sort of play it by ear exactly how long this is going to take. Now, the first thing to do is you need to open up that new current account to switch into. Unless you already have multiple current accounts and you already have that existing account, and some of these switch offers do allow existing customers to switch into them from another bank. Unless you've got that, you're going to have to open one up. Now, the important thing to remember here, when you open up a new current account, the vast majority of times you are going to be subject to what's called a hard credit check, which means the new bank is going to have a look on your credit report, on your credit file, and then looking at it, mainly it's to check your identity, and also sometimes it's around overdrafts as well. Even if you don't want an overdraft, they'll check your kind of suitability for one anyway. That search will appear on the credit report, which again is no big deal in most cases. However, if you then need to apply for another type of credit, so another current account, perhaps a credit card, a mortgage, maybe a mobile phone contract, anything where they're doing a credit check, the more of these credit checks you have showing on your file, the harder it might be to get certain types of credit in that kind of short term. Now, normally these searches, they disappear after 6 months. So it's not too much of an issue there, or a year. They're not going to be on for too long. Certainly, if you have something big coming up in the next 6 months, mainly like a mortgage thing or perhaps a balance transfer credit card that's really important to get your rate down on your debt, then maybe it's worth not doing this application for this new account right now and holding off. But that's really important to know that when you do that, you find this new account, you apply for it, there will be a credit check in the vast majority of cases. Now, what you want to do with this new account as well, particularly if it's one that offers certain offers or bonuses, or if the switching deal itself is running and has certain requirements, before you make that application, before that hard search appears on your report, you will want to just check that criteria. Check you can fulfill everything you need to do. So this is anything from, say, for a switching deal, perhaps you've got to have active direct debits in the old account before you move it across. Or perhaps you've got to use your debit card a certain number of times in order to trigger that cash welcome bonus coming along. Or for the actual general account, the underlying account itself, that might require a fee every single month, or to get rid of that fee, it might require you to pay a certain amount in every single month. So really important, you don't just blindly go, right, I'm going to open it up and switch across. Do fully understand what the criteria is for that account. And you might have to take some actions on the old account for these switch deals in order to qualify for that. So you do that, you've checked your eligibility, you've applied. Most of the time you can do this online. In fact, most of the time with the switching deals, sometimes they require you to do this online, but others will let you go into a branch. If you've still got a branch, they'll let you do that and make the application there. They will ask for things such as your salary. They will ask about your monthly expenses. They'll ask how often you want to use the account, why you want to use the account, things like that. Nothing too difficult in the application itself. You'll also, and this is where that credit check comes in, they want to check your identity. And sometimes just by going through to the credit reference agency, they can do that. They can prove who you are, and that's absolutely fine. Sometimes they might want further information, further proof of who you are. Sometimes that's scanning your driving license or your passport via the app. Sometimes you might have to go into a branch. And this is where I said about how sometimes the process can take 10 minutes and sometimes it can take longer. I've had experiences where I've had to make an appointment, go in and get things verified. It's rare, but it can happen. So just have that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about applying for a new account for switching, that this could be this process you need to go through. And particularly, again, it's quite rare this happens, but if there is one that requires you to go into a branch and there isn't a branch, then you might be stuck. But broadly speaking, it's very rare to have those things happen to you. You do all this and they'll tell you, well done, you've got the account. Now, once you've got the account accepted, that's when we start moving on to the switching process itself, how to actually do the switch. Now, a lot of the time when I've done this, in fact, the vast majority of times I've done this, during that initial application, they'll say, do you want to switch there? And there's options to put in the details of your old current account, the existing one you want to switch away from. Sometimes you will need the long debit card number. So it's worth thinking about if you've just applied for a new card to use it for switching, or if you've got a card, an old account that you've not used for a long time and the card has expired, that could be a problem. It's not always a deal breaker, but I always like to make sure that I have got a debit card available to me in order to go through that process. You put it all in, and you will choose the date that you want to switch. Now, normally this is quite a window here. Sometimes banks might be quite prescriptive and say it's happening on this date, which can be a bit frustrating, but broadly speaking, most of them will let you choose when it's going to happen. And you might want to sort of delay that slightly, maybe if you're taking advantage of a switching deal, so it gives you a bit more time to do those things in the back end that you might need to do, such as set up new direct debits on there or whatever it might be. Or maybe it's because you've got a big payment coming in or coming out. You just don't want to risk it. Despite that current account switch guarantee, you might think, right, I want to wait for this to come through and then we'll do it. But, I've done this before and my salary has been moved absolutely fine. It's not an issue. But, for peace of mind, some people might want to choose the date based on that. Now, in some situations, you're going to have to wait for the account not just to be fully opened, but for you to get stuff in the post, like your card in the post, maybe the PIN for the new online banking, all those things to arrive at your door in order for you to then go in to the online banking or into the branch or to the app, whatever it is, then start that switch process. So again, there might be a few extra days in there, but again, it's nothing to worry about. We're not talking about a huge amount of time or a huge amount of hassle. This is still, broadly speaking, in the vast majority of cases, all of the experiences for me, in the vast majority of cases when you guys talk to me about it, that's going to be absolutely fine for you to do that. And you choose that date. Now, that date itself, that can't be tomorrow, right? Or 2 days later. The minimum that it can be is 7 working days. So the soonest date you're going to be able to have is going to be 9 days in the future, effectively. You've got your 5 days plus a weekend, plus another couple of days. Obviously, sometimes you might get caught by 2 weekends in the mix there as well and extending it slightly longer. But that's the soonest you're going to be able to select that date in order for it to happen. Just a quick reminder here, though, to check those terms and conditions, particularly if you're going for a switching deal rather than just switching your everyday bank to another everyday bank. If you're going for a switching deal, do just check. They may have deadlines in place in order when that switch must take place by. So don't choose a date too far in the future after opening the account, because that could sort of invalidate your ability to get it. But you do that and you wait those minimum of 7 working days to whatever date that you want to do it. And you will be, in that time, you will be communicated with by the new bank and the old bank. And they'll be saying, thanks for opening the account, we're processing the switch. And the old one will say, oh, you're sad to see you're leaving us, we're processing the switch. If it's a problem, let us know in case you don't change your mind. They don't ever offer you any incentive to change your mind. They just go, you're going, which is a shame. It will all come through. You'll get the new stuff in the post, your new card, all those kind of bits. So you can start using that banking experience. Sometimes it's straight away. You can use in the back banking app straight away, and the digital card, don't have to wait at all for the new stuff to come along. But as you go along, on that final day when the switch completes, that is when you will find the old account is gone and it stops working completely, and you will find all your money, your balance has been moved over, all your standing orders, your direct debits, everything has been moved over to the new account, and you just start using that as you were before. And that's it. I mean, it's really simple. I hope I haven't made it sound too complicated, because it is so simple to do a bank switch. And as I said before, there are so many reasons to take advantage of it. Then you absolutely should be taking advantage of it as soon as you can for the right reasons. For more ways to take advantage of bank switching, check out these videos here.